41 fouls, 16 in just one quarter, players crashing to the floor, momentum killed at every turn, and somehow the headlines still praised the so-called dominance of Las Vegas. But was Game 2 really about skill, or did the Aces get handed an advantage the Indiana Fever could never fight through? This wasn't basketball, it was chaos in disguise. And yet, even in the middle of that storm, the Fever showed a toughness that has their fan base believing the best is still to come. Nobody expected Indiana to walk into Las Vegas and punch first. This was the two-time defending champions, stacked with veterans playing on their own court. The Fever were supposed to take their lumps, learn a lesson, and head home already down bad in the series. Instead, Kelsey Mitchell came out blazing. She didn't just score, she erupted. A playoff career-high 34 points, silencing the doubters who thought she couldn't carry that weight under pressure. Every time Vegas tried to turn the game into a track meet, Indiana answered with composure. They controlled tempo like a veteran squad, refusing to get sped up. Aces fans kept waiting for that big third-quarter run, but it never came. And at the center of it all, A'ja Wilson, the reigning MVP, looked completely out of rhythm. She went just 6 for 22 from the field, suffocated by constant contests and walls of defense. That 16-point Fever win wasn't just a result, it was a message. Indiana proved they weren't going to play the role of underdog. They walked into the Champs Arena, dictated the game, and left with everyone suddenly asking if this series was already slipping out of Vegas's control. But embarrassment like that doesn't sit quietly with a powerhouse.
I mean, I think it's pretty similar on and off the floor. Like, she's just been a voice that's been there. She's been through this league for, what, 7 years now? Like, she knows what to expect. She knows how things are going to go. And I think more than anything, like, we are just starting to understand each other much better. Like, we could just make eye contact, and she knows to go back door. She knows to come to get the ball.
The Aces came into Game 2 determined to flip the script. The only question was how far they'd go to make it happen. From the very first possessions of Game 2, you could feel the shift. Vegas wasn't interested in out-executing Indiana. They wanted to out-muscle them. Blindside screens, arms locking, bodies colliding on every cut through the lane. It didn't look like playoff basketball. It looked like a brawl dressed up as defense. And the officials? They completely lost control. Whistles echoed non-stop, but somehow the balance kept tilting one way. The Fever thrive on rhythm, on flow, on turning defense into quick offense. Instead, they were dragged into a choppy slugfest where every possession felt like an uphill battle. The numbers tell the story.
For us, it's a support system. That shouldn't change. I think, Kayla knows that she has the ears and eyes of the locker room, and the support that she has behind, whether it's us or anybody else. I would like to think that she knows it's there, and to really take her time and make sure that she's, well enough to be who she needs to be for us, because I want the 100% Kayla, so I'll take it.
41 fouls in total, 16 in just the third quarter alone. Think about that, 16 whistles in 10 minutes of basketball. That's not competition, that's disruption. Anytime Indiana tried to build momentum, the game screeched to a halt, and every stoppage seemed to cut deeper into their chances of stealing another win in Vegas. It was ugly, it was chaotic. And yet, even in that mess, one Fever player refused to fold, even while carrying an injury that should have kept her on the sideline. Lexie Hull should never have been out there. After injuring her back in Game 1, she was a late addition to the injury report, listed as a game-time decision. Most players in her spot would have sat, rested, and hoped the series would shift back home. But Hull strapped on tape, took treatment, and decided she wasn't going to leave her teammates hanging. From the opening minutes, Vegas tested that decision.
But first half, they got some kick-out threes that we can control. Just getting on the glass, box them out. A little bit more effort, a little bit more focus, a little bit more locked in on our schemes. But we're right there. So I think we can head into Sunday's game with a little bit of confidence, knowing we can compete against anybody.
She was bumped off cuts, knocked to the floor, and targeted by physical defense that seemed intent on exposing her soreness. Every trip down the floor felt like another collision waiting to happen. But instead of breaking, Hull answered the only way she knew how, by hitting shots. 5 times she rose up from deep. 5 times the ball ripped through the net. By the end of the night, she'd tied the Fever playoff record for made threes in a single game, on a night where she could barely stand straight at shoot-around. Her post-game words weren't glamorous. "I'm sore, but I'm just pushing through." No excuses, no theatrics, just defiance. Fans noticed it. They saw the toughness. But the headlines? They mostly ignored Hull's grit.
Yeah, everyone's like, "You look beautiful." I'm like, I know I look insane. But it honestly looks better now than it did when it first happened. So
Hopefully this goes down quick. I could see it looking out, like I could see it just from my own eyes.
Were you pretty dazed when you...
Yeah, I think it's more of like what just happened, big like collision.
The spotlight was pointed somewhere else, toward a stat line that looked dominant but didn't tell the full story. On paper, Aja Wilson had the kind of night that grabs attention. 25 points, 9 rebounds, 5 steals, 2 blocks. Numbers that scream dominance. And when the game ended, that's exactly how the headlines framed it. Wilson bounced back. The MVP reasserted control. Vegas was back on track. But the eye test told a different story. Those points weren't built on silky footwork or unstoppable jumpers. They came from bullying her way into the paint, absorbing whistles that seemed endless on one end and absent on the other. Every drive turned into free throws. Every shove in the lane went unpunished. And while Wilson's box score lit up, Indiana's stars were being hacked, pushed, and knocked around with barely a whistle in sight.
Those refs were giving her every freaking whistle last night. Like, you literally couldn't touch her. Couldn't touch her. And that's so annoying to me. Like, and you're gonna do that, then give it to our guards. Like, I just hate the inconsistency.
That's the part that didn't make it into the post-game coverage. To call it dominance is to ignore the chaos that paved the way for it. Wilson's stat line might have looked pristine, but the way she got there left fans furious. Dominant isn't the same as fair. And yet, while Wilson grabbed the headlines, another Fever star was fighting her own war in the shadows, and doing it without any help from the officials. Aaliyah Boston's box score looked steady. 10 points, 13 rebounds. Solid, but nothing eye-popping. What the numbers don't show is what it took to earn them. Every rebound came with a forearm to the ribs. Every post touch meant absorbing a shove in the back. Trips to the line that should have been automatic, ignored.
Oh gosh, I mean, you know, from the time she's stepped foot here with us, I mean, she's just a solid presence, a great leader, always positive, wants to win more than anything. And I mean, those are the kind of players that we want here.
Possessions that should have been whistles, play on. Boston is only in her 3rd season, yet she already carries herself like a veteran anchor. Against Las Vegas, she had no choice but to. The Aces kept stretching the floor, pulling her away from the paint, forcing her into mismatches that drained her energy while leaving her teammates vulnerable. Still, she fought. Crash after crash, board after board, she refused to disappear. Watching it unfold, you saw survival basketball. Not a dominant stat line, not highlight plays, just toughness. Quiet, relentless toughness. And while Boston battled through the trenches, the Fever kept finding sparks elsewhere. One player in particular managed to carve out light in the ugliest stretches of the game. If Indiana had any chance of keeping pace through the chaos, it came from Odyssey Sims. Off the bench, she poured in 18 points, breaking down double teams, slipping through traffic, and turning broken possessions into buckets. You could see the frustration building in her face. Every time she found a rhythm, another whistle killed it. Still, she kept attacking, refusing to let Vegas dictate everything. But where Sims shined, Kelsey Mitchell vanished. Not because she forgot how to score, but because the Aces made her life miserable. In Game 1, Mitchell lit them up for 34, scoring from every spot on the floor. In Game 2, they weren't going to let her breathe, face guarding her without the ball, bodying her like a pinball through screens, doubling her the second she touched it. By the end of the night, her total dropped to just 13. It was smart defense, brutal, physical, calculated, and it changed the entire shape of Indiana's offense. With their top scorer neutralized, the Fever had to rely on scattered sparks instead of steady flames. And while that plan worked for Vegas, even their own coach admitted afterward that the game had spiraled into something different than basketball. The craziest part? Even Becky Hammon, coach of the Aces, admitted after the game that the physicality was out of control. Think about that. Her team had just benefited from a parade of whistles and stoppages, yet she still walked away frustrated by how messy it felt. That says everything about the tone of the night. For Indiana, it was like playing with shackles. The WNBA has rules for freedom of movement, designed to stop defenders from grabbing, holding, and slowing players down.
Performance, what did you have working there in Game 1 for you?
I think it was just about having confidence, for one, leaning on my preparation, and then my teammates, our chemistry, everything we've been through this season, kind of put us in position to really be us, and I think you guys got a chance to see that.
But in this game, there was no freedom at all. Mitchell was pinned down like a receiver being jammed past the 5-yard line. Boston fought for space with 2 hands on her back every possession, and Hull kept getting knocked to the floor without relief. What made it worse wasn't just the number of fouls. It was the way they broke the Fever's rhythm. This is a team that thrives on pace, on flow, on moving the ball until the defense cracks. Instead, every surge was chopped into pieces by stoppages that tilted one way. It wasn't strategy, it wasn't execution, it was chaos, and the officiating crew never brought it under control. But as messy as Game 2 was, the real twist wasn't what happened in Vegas. It's what comes next when the series shifts to Indianapolis. Now the series heads to Indianapolis, and everything changes. Gainbridge Fieldhouse isn't just a home court, it's a weapon. 17,000 fans, all locked in, all ready to make their voices heard on every single whistle. That matters. In Vegas, questionable calls slid by under the cover of cheers. In Indy, every bump on Boston, every shove on Hull, every hack on Mitchell will echo across the arena until it can't be ignored. The Fever know it too. Aaliyah Boston said it straight. Our fans show up and show out. Lexie Hull admitted she couldn't wait to feed off that energy. And history backs them up. This season alone, we've seen visiting teams crumble in the second half once the noise hit fever pitch. At Gainbridge, there are no quiet possessions, no dead moments. The crowd is relentless, and it fuels Indiana in ways that stats can't capture. Vegas may have leaned on whistles and brute force to steal Game 2, but in Indianapolis, the dynamic flips. The Aces won't just be facing Mitchell, Boston, and Hull. They'll be facing an entire city that's been waiting years for a playoff moment like this. And that's what makes the next chapter so dangerous for Vegas. The Aces may have survived Game 2, but let's be honest, it wasn't basketball that saved them. It was whistles, bruises, and a style of play that looked more like a wrestling match than a playoff showcase. And yet, even in the middle of that storm, the Fever showed something far more important than a win or loss: resilience. Lexie Hull drilled threes through back pain. Aaliyah Boston fought for every board despite being shoved around like a veteran in a street fight. Odyssey Sims carved out buckets in traffic. And Kelsey Mitchell, silenced for one night, is waiting for her chance to answer back in front of her own crowd. Now the series flips to Gainbridge Fieldhouse, where 17,000 voices will drown out excuses and make every whistle echo. That's the stage where scars turn into fuel, where pain turns into power. Vegas had home court advantage and the refs on their side, and Indiana still refused to break. Imagine what happens when the Fever step back into their house, with every roar pushing them forward. So here's the real question. Did Vegas actually prove they're the better team? Or did they just buy time in a fight they can't escape in Indianapolis? If you believe the Fever are about to flip this series, drop a "Let's go Lexie" in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss what happens next.